At this point, zombies have been an integral part of modern entertainment for more than 50 years. From their introduction all the way back in George Romero's The Night of the Living Dead, the brain-eating creatures have infiltrated every medium. And when I say every medium, I truly mean it. Like, there are multiple adult movies based around zombies for some reason. So, it is no surprise that many video games have tried their luck at depicting such iconic specimens, some being more successful at it than others. Actually, a lot more successful. But we are not here to talk about those games. Instead, I want to focus on a title that, in theory, had all the necessary ingredients to achieve similar heights to the best of the genre, but instead ended up being so unremarkable that the gaming community tossed it into the metaphorical sock drawer for games that need to be forgotten. This is Zombie Virus. Created by a Japanese studio with a French name that also has basically no presence on the internet or info about them, but that also has worked in huge projects like Resident Evil 3 and 4 remake and the 2017 Okami remaster, as well as developing more than 20 games and being hired to help on the development of a bunch of others. Yeah, I can see why this game feels so weird. It's because the company that made it, it's a weird air company. No, really, I was so dizzy while researching this studio because first of all, they love putting generic names on the Western versions of the properties, making it really hard for a dumbass like me to find them. Like, they have a game called Kung Fu! Kung Fu! Oh! But it also explains why in general the game, models, music and atmosphere were so good. They clearly had some experience and more than a bit of talent. But where they really dropped the ball was in the gameplay. Oh my god, it is disappointing. And not because it's buggy or the fundamentals are boring, but more so that they found a way to combine really fun mechanics into a really awful experience. I mean, if that was their aim all along, then effing heads off to them. What an amazing job they did. But instead of me yapping to you about how much they suck, let me show you why they, at least for me, feel like they suck. Yeah, the subtitles or every cutscene are extremely slow for some reason. Actually, every single load screen or interaction drags on for what feels like an eternity, especially if you die and have to reload. But anyway, this is Sunlight City, a model city developed by a company that doesn't get mentioned ever again, so don't worry about it. And in its local hospital, a young medical student, that's us, spends his night diligently researching alongside his friend Susie. All of a sudden, the ground begins to shake and roar with the ferocity of a huge earthquake. But once it stops, the usual lively sounds of a bustling city get drowned out by a sinister silence. Curious, Susie looks out the window and in the distance sees the silhouette of multiple humanoid monsters roaming the street. Panicked, they both rush to the basement. Oh yeah, this game only has like 2 voice actors, but they don't actually voice the characters in the cutscenes.
3 days later.
And we are introduced to the game's main hub, the basement. Here, you can talk to the NPCs you rescue, and while some of them only give generic lines talking about the apocalypse, some others give you access to the main menus and mechanics of the game. For example, our baby Susie here gives you access to the tutorials explaining the controls, how to rescue survivors, and techniques you can use like drifting. Then we have this cute random nurse that appeared here with no name, no nothing, but gives you access to your stats. And the last but most important of them all is this normal looking lady, because she lets you save, load and change the settings. This is great! I love when games integrate their menus into the world. And yes, this can be annoying for some people, but it at least gives the NPCs a reason for existing, other than, being just objectives to complete. Here, you can also choose which car to use once you unlock them later on. So, let's rescue some people and kill some zombies. When you gain control of the vehicle for the first time, multiple dialog boxes pop up explaining the UI. In the bottom left corner, we find the health bar of the vehicle as well as your speedometer. If you crash against the surface or get hit by a zombie, the bar goes down and, after crossing a certain threshold, the vehicle will show physical damage as well as lowering the top speed. To fix this, you can pick up one of the repair kits that spawn throughout the map or go back to the hospital. A bit higher up, we see the vehicle's capacity. Each white circle represents a spot for a survivor, and the max number varies between vehicles. Once you pick up a survivor, their silhouette will appear on top of the circle, and will start to slowly fill up. If you let it fill up all the way, the survivor will turn into a zombie, damaging the car every second. You can prevent this by picking up the vaccines that, like the repair kits, spawn all over the map. The difference being that you can either find one syringe that heals a little or a big pouch that heals a lot. If, like me, you underestimated the time it takes for the silhouettes to fill up and end up with a freaking zombie nibbling at your neck while you drive, don't worry, you can just crash head-on into a wall at 70 kilometers an hour to send them flying out of the vehicle. On the top left corner, we have the moral gauge, an indication of the quote-unquote health of the hospital. Or, to be more precise, the morale of the survivors taking shelter in it. While you go save people, the building is attacked by zombies, and the survivors are tasked with protecting it. If the health gets too low, Susie will give you a warning through the radio. To be honest with you, for me, that's the best part of the whole game. I love those voice lines. And if it gets to 0, it's game over. Now, to restore morale, you only have two options. Either chain together combos by killing zombies, the higher the number, the higher the morale gained, or by rescuing certain types of people. Otherwise, the morale will remain at the level you finished the run at, and if you are not careful and let it get too low, can mean certain failure in your next one. Finally, on the top right corner, we have the minimap, which, depending on the lights you have installed in your car, shows you things like white dots for survivors, green ones for vaccines and repair kits, and red ones for zombies. For the controls, you have two options. You can either use the default scheme, accelerating with X and reverse with circle, or the technical scheme, accelerating with right bumper and reverse with left bumper. But all the other controls remain the same. triangle for boost, square for the handbrake, left stick for directions, right trigger to turn on the siren and emergency lights, left trigger to turn them off, start to pause and select to access one of the most useless maps I ever seen in a game in my entire life. You cannot even zoom in on it, and as you'll see later, it's only useful for the first zone, because for the other 4, those are the squares located at each corner, it doesn't even show the real map. Oh, why even add it then? It doesn't make any sense. So we go on our first expedition and manage to rescue 1 soldier and 1 lady before going back to the hospital. Once there, we actually see them in the basement, which is kind of cool. Talking to the nurse, we can check the benefit of rescuing each one, and for the sake of not making it confusing later on, I'm going to tell you what bonus each survivor gives you. There are 6 types of survivors in total. The female and male citizens give you back a small amount of morale after rescuing them. Then there's the police officer who gives you a big morale boost. After that, we have the soldier who increases the max amount of morale. Then the mechanics, which unlock the development menu and let you mod your cars as well as unlocking other vehicles. And finally, the politician, which, like the cutscene mentioned before, have the keys of the city and are required to gain access to the different areas surrounding it. From the second run onward, you will see this screen after going out of the hospital, telling you how many survivors in total are in the current area, the number of politicians currently in the level, and the number of survivors needed to spawn the next politician. And so we start looking for people to rescue. The first few runs are kind of miserable. Mainly because you can only pick up 2 people at a time, and to kill zombies you need to hit them twice, making the combo mechanic really hard to use. And so your morale starts to go down like crazy. By the 3rd run I didn't have enough time to recover morale and died while trying to go back to the basement, but I imagine the devs knew how hard the early game would be, because every time you die and press continue, your morale goes up to 50%. So my strat consisted on ignoring zombies and rescuing as many survivors as I could before dying, resetting, and doing it all over again. That strat thankfully changed once I rescued my first mechanic and got access to the development menu. In the development menu, you can see the number of mechanics you have rescued and the parts and vehicles unlocked for research by that number. There are 4 parts: engine, tires, bumper, and lights. Each one affects the durability, speed, weight, surge range, and damage power on your vehicle. So, for example, heavier tires with spikes increase the damage and weight of the ambulance, making it kill zombies in 1 hit instead of 2. But it also makes the vehicle harder to control while drifting or taking closed curves. So you have to find the best combination of parts for your style. I freaking love this. It is such a simple progression system, but it doesn't need to be more complicated, because making your car go faster or making it more lethal against zombies always feels nice. Especially because the game does a really good job at reflecting the increase in stats in the actual gameplay. You feel the speed. You see how much faster you can kill a large number of zombies. The minimap goes from a useless waste of space to basically the best way to navigate the map. And even with the drawbacks, you can notice how much harder it is to maneuver the car if it's too heavy. And the way to unlock new parts shows just how well thought out this system is. You need to first find more mechanics, making you explore the map and be more tactical with your limited number of spots each run. And then to research them and actually be able to equip them, you need to kill a certain amount of zombies. The higher the level of the part, the higher the number of kills, transitioning the player masterfully into the combo system and arguably the most enjoyable part of the whole game, which is killing zombies. And this is why this game makes me so sad, because all of that good game design I just talked about can only be experienced after basically beating the first level. But the vanilla ambulance is so weak that a lot of people stop playing before getting to the good part. And I believe the specific point where people stop playing is the first boss, but more of that later. After getting the third politician to the basement, you get a cutscene where they give you the keys to unlock the next area and task you with rescuing the survivors and politicians in that map. But at the same time, if you save all the politicians in your current area before rescuing all the survivors, their signals will be lost and disappear from your map forever. This is a really cool way to make the player want to complete each area before proceeding to the next. For example, after getting the cutscene and realizing there were four survivors that I would never be able to rescue, and in turn a whole zone that would now be incomplete, my monkey brain got obsessed with rescuing every single NPC in the next map. But unfortunately, as a perfect metaphor for this game, saving everyone doesn't give you anything or change the game in any way. We unlock the gate to the east area, and when starting our next run, notice that the streets are completely empty with not a single zombie in sight, but instead some weird claw-looking fences blocking some streets. Following the available path, we get to a big intersection. This is the first boss, a giant caterpillar. With its huge body, it blocks all the exits, trapping you in the intersection, and periodically the head comes out in one of the streets trying to ram you. But if you dodge the head and hit the sides of the body, you can slowly bring its health down. The issue is that at first, what you have to do is not clear at all, and trying to take it head on will only damage the ambulance, so I died a bunch of times here. Add to this the fact that the car is neither fast nor has a high damage stat, so even once you find the strat, it will take you a while to kill this thing, or get completely screwed by the hitbox and die. This encounter is so bad. Mind you, the level before was already kind of boring due to the underwhelming stats of the starting vehicle, but this boss fight takes it to a whole nother level. No wonder most people drop the game in this fight. And this is not just me speculating. I was using a website called Retro Achievements to give the playthrough a bit more dynamism by also trying to get all the achievements, and in this site you can check how many people have unlocked what number of achievements. And once you check the graph for this game, you can clearly see a huge drop-off after 5 achievements, which is also the number I had unlocked when I started fighting the worm. And unfortunately, like in real life, it only gets worse from here. Except for the music. The music is amazing and it never drops off, so yeah, hats off to whoever composed the songs for this godforsaken game. After beating the big guy, we get sent back to the hospital and are now able to enter the new area. This is called the East Building, and it's a neighborhood arranged in a square grid, home to a new type of enemy, these big zombie dudes that look a lot like God from One Punch Man. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a name for them, but they only appear in this area, so it's not that important. Given their size, if you try to run them over, your ambulance will lose a lot more momentum, making it easier for you to get stuck in the middle of a big horde of zombies, which is a big issue given how you still need to go back to the hospital in the main city, basically doubling your distance and making any deduction in speed due to damage way more punishing than before. Aside from that, the goal is the same. Rescue survivors until a politician spawns and then rescue all three of them. But at this part of the game, you would most likely have already unlocked multiple upgraded parts, making the gameplay loop way more enjoyable. I was kind of mind blown at how much fun I was having in this part, especially because with better parts you can focus on killing zombies, chaining combos together and unlocking even more parts to upgrade your vehicle. And these three aspects are woven so nicely together that you basically forget about the main task and just start killing every single zombie you see to try and get an even bigger combo, just because it's fun. So we rescue all the survivors and politicians, and after getting the key for the next area, we find ourselves getting guided again by the claw fences to an even worse boss fight. This is the veteran zombie, and to defeat them you need to stand still at the end of the road until he gets down, crash into him, and rinse and repeat for 20 boring minutes. I have a hypothesis. This game was the victim of either corporate demands to finish it as fast as possible or a huge cut in personnel and budget mid-development. Because after this point, every single sign of good game design or fun just disappear from it. The bosses don't present any kind of threat or challenge. The maps have the most tedious and disruptive design for a driving game, and even the new enemies are irrelevant because they are so far apart from one another that even trying to chain kills become an impossible task. In contrast with the first two levels, it's night and day. Anyway, we kill the old zombie and, after respawning in the hospital, enter the third area. This is the West Garden, by far the worst map in the entire game. Full of dead ends and with a zombie population that loves to spawn individually and as far away from any other zombie as possible. I guess the only good thing is the spooky forest aesthetic. After rescuing all three politicians, we get a rematch with the giant worm, this time in a desert for some reason, which is also the fourth area? Why in the hell is there a desert in what is supposed to be a model city? Who knows? We give him a beating and now have access to the South Desert, a slightly better map with moving sand and boulders, tons of boulders. After rescuing the politicians here, we get another round against our nemesis. This time, not as a lowly caterpillar, but instead as a beautiful butterfly moth thing, making the fight infinitely worse because now we just start to follow it until it decides to come down for an attack, hit him once or twice, and then rinse and repeat. Add to this that the hitboxes in this game are awful, at least for the bosses, and yeah, you can see how little effort went into designing the bosses, when most of them have different attacks but overall the same pattern. The fight takes place in the North Field, a snowy landscape filled with slippery surfaces and more dead ends, although less egregious than the previous two maps. This is also the only zone apart from the East building to introduce a new type of enemy, the zombie dog, a weaker version of the normal zombie. Do they bring something different to the table? Nope, but they are easier to kill, so that's that. After picking up the politicians of this place, we go back to the hospital and have a chat with them. Apparently, they have upgraded the radio system with the help of the mechanics and now ask us to rescue the remaining survivors and politicians in all 5 zones. We get interrupted mid-conversation by the nurse to finally get some kind of explanation as to what happened to the city. So, in one of our encounters with the worm caterpillar thingy, we got a sample of a fluid that oozes from its body. And while we were rescuing the survivors in the South Desert and the North Field, Susie and the nurse were running some tests on the liquid. It turns out that the composition of the fluid is the same as the one found in the zombies. I don't know if they mean the blood of the zombies or if some other fluid, because they don't really specify. And with such a potent compound, if, for example, it got mixed with the city's water supply, it would turn a lot of the residents into monsters out of nowhere at the same time, which is exactly what seemed to happen at the beginning of the game. So that's that. How did it get mixed with the water supply? Where did the worm come from? Why is there a giant effing bug under the city? I guess we'll need to finish the campaign to find out. Or maybe not. I don't know. I feel like the devs at the end didn't really care about the story, so maybe we won't get any answers. We start our next run and immediately get jumped by not one, but two veteran zombies. In this fight, both zombies have a bazooka and an assault rifle. While shooting the bazooka, they stay still in one place, and that's the moment you need to run them over. But if you mess up the timing, they jump backwards, gaining invis frames, and immediately hit you with their assault rifle, which shreds through your health, and if you're not careful, means getting 100 to 0 in an instant. Ask me how I know. After killing the couple, we go back to the grind, saving survivors, rescuing politicians, until at last we find the last one of them white-collar boys, get the last keys of the city, and face off for one last time against our rival. This time turned into some sort of Squidward-looking type of creature. In this fight, you have no space to maneuver, so what I ended up doing was staying right next to one of his tentacles and hitting it repeatedly until it died. And that's the campaign of one of the most unsatisfying games I've ever played in my entire life. We get no answers, no closure, just a conversation between our baby Susie and our character talking about the caterpillar and basically saying, well, that was weird. I don't know what that was about, but it's probably the city's fault for developing too fast and stuff, or something like that. I don't know, I don't give a shit. Oh? Oh? Oh, brother. Oh. You can't make this stuff up. At the end, they talk about leaving the city and changing careers while the camera pans to a caterpillar on the floor. The end. But wait, remember how I mentioned that I wanted to get all the achievements? Well, 90% of them are progression related, like killing the veterans, or can be obtained in the main campaign, like getting a combo of 100 kills. But there's 3 achievements that can only be obtained in the arcade modes, so let's check them out. First, we have Endless Mode, where you choose one of the 4 main vehicles and go rescue people and kill zombies for points. For this mode, we need to reach 1,000 points. Next is Survivor Attack, where you have to rescue as many people as possible in a limited amount of time. Thankfully, we only need to rescue 10 scrubs for the achievement, so we chill the remaining time. And last but not least, Zombie Attack, where you choose a vehicle and kill as many zombies as you can in a set amount of time. So we take the tank for a spin and reach the 100 kill threshold needed for the achievement, finally completing the game and setting my soul free from this horrible curse. So, my final thoughts. Was this game any good? Kind of? Okay, no, not really. But it has some really good aspects that, if implemented in a better game, or at least revisited in a more thought out and properly structured way, would make for an amazing and unique zombie game, apart from every other title in the genre, and with the same potential for fun as classics like Taxi Driver and Monkey Ball. But that's just me daydreaming, and for this game, the bad outweighs 100 to 1 the good. Would I play it again? No. Am I glad to have played it at least once? Yes. Would I recommend you to play it? Hell no. But I will say this. The game has so much potential and such a good foundation that if, for example, someone that knows how to mod retro games or who wants to experiment with a game that with just some minor tweaks can be turned into an amazing experience, I would 100% tell you to keep this game in mind because it's weird, it's fun, it's like nothing else I've ever played, and who knows, it could be the diamond in the rough, like the really rough, like basically in the middle of a radioactive zone that you might be looking for. And that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry for taking so long with just one game, but I had so many conflicting opinions that writing the script just became a frustrating process of writing one paragraph, then changing things, then adding things, erasing some other, just a mess. A complete and utter mess. But anyway, hopefully the next video will be easier to make and I'll be able to upload it in the normal 2-week period. If you liked what you saw and think that you might want to see more, then subscribing and leaving a like would mean the world to me. Also, if you have any suggestions or games you want me to cover, feel free to leave them in the comment section or to DM me in any of the social media. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, much love, and see you later. Bye bye.